Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He is a serial entrepreneur, architect, and of course, builder, no other than Mr. Lance Cayko. Welcome to Abstract Essay, Mr. Lance. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, no problem. A lot of people ask me what I do, and I say, it depends on what day and what time. Because as you just mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an architect. I'm a builder. I am a real estate developer, real estate investment entrepreneur, podcaster, professional fisherman, and even a philanthropist with my nonprofit Longmont Community Gardens, and sometimes a college professor for the past 13 years, but not this semester. I have taught at the University of Colorado Boulder in Boulder.
Interesting, Mr. Lance. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Because today we're going to talk about from recession to riches, building a design empire. I like this topic, Mr. Lance. And what did you see in the depth of the Great Recession that other miss? Why is that the moment to start a business?
Yeah. A lot of people ask me, they look at the success that we've had at all of the different companies, and being an entrepreneur is kind of, I think it's a sexy word. I think it's a sexy thing to do. People, it's very vanguard at this point and in vogue. And so people, there's like the side hustle and hustlers on social media and all that kind of stuff. So they go, I want to be one. How do I
Yeah.
become an entrepreneur? What should I do to do that? And I go, when is the best time to start a business? And I go, oh, during a Great Depression or a Great Recession. And they look at me like I'm crazy, because that was, I think, one of the best parts about doing it during the Great Recession was no one else was hiring architects at that point. 50% of the architects were laid off in that period of time. It was one of the worst recessions for our profession ever. And it was all because of the housing boom and all that crazy stuff that happened with the derivatives. And when it went bust big time. So the reason I tell them that's when the best time to start a business is during a Great Depression or Great Recession, is because you'll never be hungrier. You'll never be forced, therefore, to be more creative, more lean, more mean, and it forces you into this entrepreneurial machine, really. Um, at the end of the day, you have to hustle, 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 and you'll just come up with the most creative ways if you really want to make it long term in how to market yourself and get your name out there and get those clients that are really, really scarce. And even it comes down to like our processes that we ended up developing once we got those kind of clients. It was like we couldn't really command and earn high fees. We had to kind of work with a set of folks who at that point only had so much change in their pockets. There was not a lot of money flying around. Financing was very tight to get things built. And so therefore the design budgets were really, really low. But at the same time, it was like, well, we gotta we gotta take on some of this work in order to survive. How can we get the work done for less money? How can we get very high quality design work done with much less time to do it in? And we had to become really good in the software that we're designing all of these buildings in. But we had to make like a template and a framework, and that's really set us apart from other folks. Is we were like, look, there's this new piece of software out. It's called Revit Architecture, and it can kind of make you be as powerful as, say, like two or three people who would be drawing the same building in terms of speed and what you could produce. And so after the first few projects that we got, we just rethought about the template that we would start with, and that's been a force multiplier from day one, and allowed us to operate in such a difficult environment. And the beautiful thing about like starting your business in such a terrible place, like a Great Depression, a Great Recession, is if you can survive in those kind of economic conditions, then you really thrive once you get out of those. And then if you have a long-term look at business and entrepreneurship, because that's what you have to, is right, is like there's going to be those years where you barely make it, but if you make it through those years, and when you have to barely make it and you can hold your staff together, and while others maybe can't, then you already have a leg up on everybody else because you don't have to start over from scratch. You're not having to retrain people, and it becomes a huge positive effect in the end.
Very well said, Mr. Lance. Beautifully, beautifully articulated for sure. And can you tell us your podcast
Yeah,
inside the firm?
yeah. We started. Before we started recording, you asked me how long we've been doing it. It's 8 years, and
Yes.
it's been a long run. We're right around the 700 episodes mark. So we're kind of veterans in the space. It's a niche space. I mean, there's only so many architects to go around. Matter of fact, there's like literally 100,000 architects in the United States. So it's not a huge audience you're trying to go after. But we are in the top 5 podcasts in that arena. We're pretty proud of it. The reason why we started the show is because it would have been in 2017 when we did it, and that would have been year 7 of our existence as architectural business owners. Most people don't. Most people or most businesses actually fail within those first 7 years. So,
Yes.
so when we got to year 7, then we said, "Oh man, we haven't failed yet. We should probably tell our story." And we were huge podcast fans anyway. We listened to like Joe Rogan and people like that, Adam Carolla, and it was just like, gosh, I feel like we should tell our story, even if it's just for ourselves, even if it's just for our family, even if it's just for our children, our future children. It would be nice to document it in some kind of way. So that's kind of how it started. But then in the end, where it's landed is it's just been us telling. So when we did episode 0, episode 1, we kind of went back in time, pretended like we was when we first started up, and talked about how we started up the firm. We really laid it all bare and raw, and brought you inside the firm. So that's the primary reason why we initially started it, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, we added an additional show. So we do 2 shows a week, and the other show is called Monday Morning Coffee, the Inside the Firm, and I'll have people like yourself on, Mr. Daniel, other influencers, and a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs. Because in the end, what we're really trying to do is we're just trying to spread the message of entrepreneurship, businesses, positivity, self help, and just trying to help out sort of people. And what it does is the more I give, especially if I just give people the microphone, the more I learn about myself. I just have had some amazing authors on where I end up buying their book about halfway through the episode, and it's really good.
Yes. That's awesome. Awesome. And congratulations for empowering people all over the world through your podcast. Keep up the good work, Mr. Lance, because let's empower people all over the world through our podcast. Starting a design firm during recession sounds, well, something. How did you refrain economic fear into a unique competitive advantage?
Well, it harkens back to what I was talking about previously about how do you once you win the work in an economic downturn, and if the work isn't there's not a lot of money in the work, but you can't change the cost of living, and therefore you can't change what you pretty much have to pay yourself in order to live and survive. What is the one thing you can change? It's probably the way you operate, right? It's the way
Yes.
you get the work done. So how do you do that? And there was different methodologies where we did it, but one thing that we've sort of brought forward in the future is about 4 or 5 years ago. Every year we read a book in our architecture company, and we read it as a team. So we assign like 20 to 40 pages per week at the beginning of the year. Then we all meet together and talk about it. And the one big book that kind of put it all together for us and made it so it was formulaic, and that everybody tries to practice this method every day, every week at the company, is the 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers. And so what he did is he went and visited Toyota, because Toyota was crushing all of the American manufacturers. They could sell a better car for cheaper. Same sort of thing, right? Where it's like I'm trying to sell, and we have design services a little bit cheaper, especially at the beginning. Right now we're not as cheap, but at the beginning, especially during a downturn, how do I sell a really high quality service for cheaper and still be able to pay myself what I need to eat and live and prosper? So he went to the Toyota factory and he found out what the big thing that differentiated themselves from like GM Motors and all these other places is they thought about their processes. They're like, for example, we have to make this door 1 million times. Well, what happens if we make the process to make the door 2 seconds faster, and you're multiplying it times 1 million? That is a big effect, right? You're just doing a small incremental thing on this one repetitive process over and over again. And that can have a huge effect on your bottom line and your productivity. So now every day at our office, somebody has to present a 2 second lean or a process improvement in order to make us more efficient, more profitable, still be able to deliver high quality design and architectural services to everybody, um, at a very competitive fee. That's really the one thing you can change. It's always sort of like that in economic downturns. You maybe only have one chess piece you can move around in order to survive and thrive.
Interesting, Mr. Lance. So let's talk about the guerrilla marketing and growth. What was your most effective guerrilla marketing tactic that cost little to no money but delivered a massive returns?
Yeah, man, it's a good question, because there's actually so many of them. Uh, the most fun one I thought was when we did in 27 around 2017, 2018. I think I can't remember the exact year. I think it was 2017. Jeff Bezos was looking to make a second Amazon headquarters, and he and all the major cities across America were looking to lure him and his company there, because it would have been a huge economic driver, right, for whatever
Yes,
city landed it.
yes.
And so my business partner was like, what if we did a quick study? He goes, I'll dedicate one day in the office to do this, and we'll pretend, and we'll ask the question, and we'll answer the question. What would it be like if they put it in downtown Denver? And what if he decided to make the biggest skyscraper in the United States? So that's what Alex put together, some conceptual drawings on what it would look like and what kind of space and volume they would need. So he spent one day doing that, produced the renderings, and then my job was the next day, because and we did this all the same week that they were going to announce who they picked. And Denver was one of the candidates. And so then the next day it was my job, just using social media, like going into the comment sections of, Denver, all the major news stations that were reporting about this, and posting it. And then I was also posting ads about it on Facebook. And I spent the whole day doing that. And we got enough attention that a bunch of local newspapers picked it up. We got a bunch of free press because of it. And then Denver 7 and Fox 31 actually sent camera crews all the way up from Denver to our office in Longmont and did interviews with us about it. They were so intrigued by the idea. So we got a ton of attention. It was true guerrilla marketing, because it was like Amazon actually didn't hire us to do this study whatsoever. This was us just like knowing basically how to get attention and sort of trolling, I guess. And so the work we ended up getting because of it, we did not get the Amazon headquarters. Amazon did not pick um, Denver at all. They picked out in the Northeast, I think by DC, and to set up their second headquarters. And so what we did get, though, is through the press, is a local developer saw us and they go, look, you guys are exactly what I'm looking for. Someone that has good, interesting ideas. You're kind of edgy, young, And we ended up getting a townhome project where we designed 13 townhomes because of that. So totally the opposite of Amazon. But because of that guerrilla marketing and us putting us out there, we did get a big architectural commission.
Mr. Lance, how do you build credibility and trust as a new brand when most clients were averse or averse in cutting budgets?
Yeah, you have to do a lot of pretend role playing and understand how to deal with objections. And you could do it with, there's a lot of courses online you can take. And the ones I would recommend is that you take is the ones that are realtor
Yeah.
recommended. So a lot of realtors, people who are going to sell houses, they go through these courses over and over again, and they become experts at dealing with people who have objections to why they don't want to buy the house. All they're doing is giving you excuses, right? It's like
Yes.
they need a reason to say no, and you're trying to bat down the reason for them to say no. So it's not so much about your credibility, it's you actually trying to understand the client and why they might not, or the customer, and what has them saying no, and how do you get them to say yes.
Yeah, strategy, people. Strategy indeed. So, can you share a story of a no that you turned into a yes through a sheer creativity and persistence?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, how did I turn a no into uh, a yes? Well, one of my most recent clients was very difficult to. It was very difficult to earn their business. Um, he was a pretty well-to-do man, and with a wife and a beautiful family and everything in Denver. And he, he came from a background like I did, not well-to-do, no silver spoon, earned every penny that he got, but at the same
Okay.
time, sort of just didn't understand this is what a design professional costs, especially for that neighborhood with this caliber of builder and everything like that. And I was getting the big objections and the no's and that sort of thing. And we almost actually hung up on each other when we were doing the final negotiations of the project. And there was one phrase that I ended up using to turn him around on. And I knew it was sort of like a shot in the dark. It was sort of like a Hail Mary. It was just one big last attempt. And I was like, he's either going to hate this or it's going to kind of just sink right into him. And what I said is, I go, well, maybe we're just not the right firm for you. And maybe we're just too expensive. But, and you, maybe you just can't afford us. And I could tell it dug at his ego to the point where he was like, oh no, I can, it just totally turned him around because it was a little, I mean, some people could be a little insulted by that, right?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of actually ego in hiring an architect like us that's 15 years now, experienced. We've won many awards. We're sought after for certain styles. We're sought after because of our high quality customer service. And all of that comes with a price. And there's bragging rights about hiring high quality people who win awards and stuff like that, especially with homeowners who then they have guests over and they walk them around and everything like that. So that was a shot in the dark. I don't have to do that too often, but sometimes you get sort of strangely desperate at the end of a sales negotiation, and you're trying not to seem desperate either, but you got to just throw a shot in the dark.
Definitely. And Mr. Lance, let's talk about the mindset and resilience. What was your lowest point in the early days, and what was the mindset shift that pulled you through it?
Yeah, lowest point was when I was laid off from my job that I graduated in 2008, and
Yes.
then I got my first job down here in Colorado, is a real architect job, not just more than an internship. Lasted 9 months, got laid off, and my lowest point was driving home that day. I was like, I was in tears. I was just completely torn up. I was embarrassed because I'm supposed to be the breadwinner for the family. I had two children.
Yes.
I was just totally shook up because I worked my butt off to get here, and I grew up a 90s kid in the 1990s. And growing up in the 1990s, you couldn't get away from the golden era of basketball. So like Michael Jordan, those kind of folks. I
Yes.
was a huge Michael Jordan fan. Almost everybody was. Even if you
Yes.
didn't like basketball, it was just everywhere, right? And the story that a lot of us Michael Jordan fans really gravitated towards was how he used that chip on his shoulder when he got cut from his high school team and didn't make the roster, didn't make varsity that one summer. And so what he did is he got angry, he got determined, and he stuck with that chip on his shoulder all summer and worked his butt off. And then he made the starting roster in his senior year. And then sort of the rest is history, right? Because then he went to University of North Carolina. He's Michael Jordan and all of that. And I always just really like that chip on the shoulder story because I was an underdog. I just love underdog stories, and I even still consider myself an underdog. So I did the same thing. I carried a big chip on my shoulder. It's smaller now, but it still exists. When I got laid off during the Great Recession by those two other architects who just were not good at business, and I've always carried that through, and I've tried to just be and build a bigger, better, badder, more resilient architecture firm.
Mr. Lance, what will be your short-term and long-term goals as a builder, as an architect, as a podcast host?
Short term is short term is to finish out 2025 strong. It's been a difficult year. The economy's been real choppy. That's okay. We're hoping for some interest rate drops here in the next month. And if we can finish out 2025 strong and be profitable, that's a huge win in a difficult economy because it hasn't just been roaring. It's like one month is really good, next month is bad. That's short term. Long term with kind of all of them, I'll rattle them off is I would love to get to 1,000 episodes on the podcast. I think that would be a huge milestone. I don't know how many podcasts have gotten to 1,000 episodes, but it's got to be a very small number. That would be really exciting for the architecture firm. I would eventually like to have a mountain office. Right now we have two offices, one in Longmont, one in Denver. And then building wise, it would be nice to hit 8 figures. So far we're in the 5 figure zone, or sorry, the 7 figure zone. But if we can get up to the 8 figure zone in 1 year, that would be life changing in almost every way.
Definitely aiming for the best 7 or 8 years. Why not, Mr. Lance? And before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Lance, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Lance, what or if you could give one piece of hard-earned advice to an entrepreneur who is terrified of the next economic headline, what would it be?
It would be exactly what I said before is there's no better time to start a business than a Great Depression or a Great Recession.
Yes, empowering indeed, Mr. Lance Cayko. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, your podcast, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, check out our website f9productions.com, sign up for our newsletter. I will link in with anybody if you go to linkedin.com and you type in LANCE and last name Cayko. And then don't forget to go to insidethefirmpodcast.com and check out our episodes.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Lance because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering business to come, and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself, and for sure, more and more empowering entrepreneur to come. So, Mr. Lance, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.